Hello, happy 2026. If you want to run high impact marketing campaigns this year, this video is for you. My name is Erica. I am the founder of the 128 Collective. We are a marketing operations and strategy firm, and we function on 3 values and principles. The first one is intentional simplicity. Stop making things harder than it needs to be. The second is ease as a growth strategy. If you're noticing a trend here, you are correct. And the third is clarity is a kindness. And I think we can all relate to that one on some type of level. So if you're a marketer watching this, you know we're a pretty busy profession. And if you're not a marketer, maybe just, send the marketers in your life some love and some good vibes. We get put on blast a lot for sales missing their target, or products getting negative feedback, or the customer service team getting blown up with tickets. And while I'm not going to say that we're always the innocent party, I'm going to say that sometimes this is just a lack of visibility that makes it look like marketing is the issue. However, there's also a number of reasons why marketing campaigns fail. And I'm going to talk about that today. And the 2 big things are that marketing strategies or marketing campaigns become very easily disconnected from top-line business objectives. And we'll dive into that more in a second, but essentially every single marketing campaign should be responsible for moving a business objective forward, whether that's pipeline, revenue, retention, loyalty, awareness, whatever it might be. And that gets lost a lot. A marketing campaign becomes high impact when it is operationalized, when campaign strategy is operationalized into a very well-defined and very clear execution system. So let's talk about how to produce strategy into execution that actually produces outcomes. So the sales team wins, the product team wins, the customer service team wins, and marketing can take a freaking breath. So let's go back to this first one. I have a couple notes up here to keep me centered here, but marketing campaigns have to tie to business objectives, and we miss this a lot as marketers because things will come out of left field. Leadership will want us to go explore this idea, and it has nothing to do with what they said needed to happen for the year. And I'm going to give an example of a client who came to us once and they were like, hey, we want to do a cooking show. They're not a cooking brand. They're not even a B2C. They're a B2C brand, but not really. They're an essential business and they want to do a cooking show, and it was a cute idea and I could have seen it going well in practice, but it just wasn't aligned with their goals that year were purely to grow new revenue. That was a retention play. And I was like, yeah, if we have room in the retention budget, let's do it. But the retention budget is maxed out with just doing maintenance campaigns throughout the year. So instead, we recommended penetrating more locally and targeting sales marketing on more of a local sales level to target new revenue and try to recreate sales that we've already seen be successful. And that drove way more revenue than that cooking show would have ever. Now, was the cooking show cool and fun? Yes, that's when marketers are usually like, oh my gosh, pull me towards that. Let me do that. But that wasn't going to drive their top line business objectives. So that would have just been like a very low impact marketing campaign. Unless it was a year they wanted to focus on retention, then that would have made retention numbers look phenomenal. So here's the thing, when you clearly tie a marketing campaign to a business objective, even if it fails, that was a high impact campaign because now you have very clear data. If a company wanted to run a billboard in California for skincare, and the billboard fell flat, you're tracking the cost of the billboard, the regional impact. You can kind of tie sales back to billboards if you have really, really good data tools in place. But if that campaign fails, what you've identified, you can using all of those metrics, you can figure out, was it the location, was it the messaging, was it the product, or did sales just not follow up? The second way to make marketing campaigns higher impact is to respond to audience requests. There are so many marketing campaign brainstorms I sit in on where the team is like, oh my gosh, amazing, love that idea, so cool. And nobody's asking, what signals did the audience give us that they're interested in this or that they would like to see that? And so what happens is you spend a lot of time and money on a campaign and the consumer doesn't give a crap because it's not what they asked for. So an example I always give is tech companies. So for example, ClickUp. ClickUp just released their 4.0, their new interface, their new UI, and it is simply terrible. Sorry, I love ClickUp. I'm a ClickUp user. I'm not hating. I have a ClickUp link in the bio below or in the description below. But they have a running roadmap of things that people vote on, and they say they prioritize things, but instead they've been prioritizing a lot of shiny AI features, when really all we want is something simpler, like give us dark mode or give us the ability to categorize time tracking by the tags that you let us put in. There are key features missing where it becomes wildly apparent that they aren't putting themselves in the audience's shoes and they're not actually listening to their audience. They're just chasing the next shiny object, and so their campaigns are falling very, very flat. So when you're prepping your next campaign and you're thinking about the messaging or the creative or the direction, make sure that you ask yourself, what signals did the audience give us that this campaign is going to resonate? And if you don't have a legitimate answer, you probably should not be going that way. The next one is a big one. Marketing campaigns, if you want them to be high impact, they require ownership and accountability. And this separates good marketing from great marketing. There's a lot of things that separate good from great in marketing, but this is a biggie. Because what happens is in the world of marketing, we're moving quick. So you're typically building multiple campaigns at once. You push one campaign live and then you're getting ready for the next one. So it's really easy to push a campaign live and then forget it and wait until the end to see what worked or what didn't work. So having people who are responsible for both the execution and the ownership over the results is very important. If somebody has ownership over the results of a campaign, they're not going to set it and forget it. They're going to turn it on and then they're going to repeatedly check in against that business objective that campaign should be tied to see whether or not it's delivering. And if not, start having conversations with the appropriate subject matter experts about why it's not performing. So when you not only ship a campaign, but you track the performance, you have the business objective in mind, you have officially stepped into the world of high impact marketing. The next piece is marketing campaigns that are high impact require fast, clear, and confident decisions, and this is very hard in marketing to do. Nothing takes marketing from high impact to low impact, like slow decision making, unclear approval cycles, unclear timelines. So I'm going to give you kind of a rundown. I have some bullet points here of what we do at the 128 Collective to run a really tight ship when it comes to this. So the first thing is that, like I said, we use ClickUp. I hate 4.0, but I love ClickUp. We create these clear timelines in ClickUp of what's going to happen when, who's responsible for execution, who's responsible for the outcome, and it's a timeline view that everybody can access that has anything to do with the campaign. And then, because that timeline will inevitably go astray, we also create a communication plan on when it goes astray, who's updating the timeline, who's communicating to the team what the change is, why it happened, and what it impacts. And are we making that change in that shared view so everybody can see the updates? Having that process creates visibility, keeps us from slowing down, and also helps us move a little bit faster and more confidently when we have to make those changes. And they will always happen. The next is that all of our approvals have clear assignees, and it's never the executor that is the approver. So the person who did it is not approving. They should be fact checking, reviewing their work. But then the approver is somebody who's tied in really tightly to the strategy. So if you're a big team, that could be like an account manager, a PM, a stakeholder, the client. Probably not, I wouldn't do the client. I would have somebody internal review it before shipping to the client. But just to give you an example, before it goes live, it needs to go through a very clear approval cycle. The next thing is that decision ownership on our team is something that SMEs are a part of. We are never putting leadership in a position to make a decision on something that they don't have the full picture on or that they aren't an expert in. Yes, leadership gets the final say, but they're going to have those little guidance people, those guides or those SMEs to help guide them to that decision. And finally, we're going to get into this more in the next one, but we're consistently reviewing campaign performance to adjust and tweak as necessary. Which leads us into the last thing. Marketing campaigns require an iteration cadence. They are not a one and done. Campaigns fail when there is no defined rhythm for that review, that discussion, that iteration. If a team waits until the end of a campaign to decide what worked and what didn't work, the campaign definitely was not high impact and they probably lost. So I'm going to give you an example of what we've done at the 128. We ran a Black Friday campaign. Started in October, and so we had 3 phases of it. We had warming up, which was October 1 to 31. We had early holiday, November 1 to 21, and then we had Black Friday, which was the 21st through the 1st. So what was our process for tracking this and staying on top of this without making it be too much? First of all, we had weekly micro reports. So this was just looking at some of the top line metrics and flagging anything that was out of bounds, that wasn't correct. And, if we're making any real big wins, flagging those too. And if anything was outside of our target range, then we could have a closer look at that. But we had those weekly micro reports to kind of do periodic check-ins and make sure that we were looking at things and applying tweaks as necessary. And then at the close of each phase, so we had 3 total, one at the end of the warming up, one at the end of early holiday, and one at the end of Black Friday, a 45-minute macro report meeting with everybody involved. And we looked at, what creative performed best, what audience signals did we get, what messaging converted, what products are selling the best, what tweaks do we need to make to our landing pages to optimize based on where the market's going, what messaging tweaks do we need to swap in new creative, should we try a coupon code, should we try this, should we try that? And then we were able to run little experiments alongside our campaigns, and that pushed up results. And we were also able to tweak anything that wasn't working so we could lower the acquisition costs. So in summary, if you want to start creating high impact marketing campaigns in 2026, start by making sure 1, all of your marketing campaigns are tied to a business objective. 2, your marketing campaigns should be based on signals you've gotten from your audience on what will be relevant or what will resonate, because that relevance is what compounds and gets you good results that sustain. 3, marketing campaigns require accountability and ownership of all deliverables associated with that campaign. 4, timelines and approvals need to be written down and documented and very clear to everyone. Remember, clarity is a kindness. And finally, you need to have some type of process for iteration, performance tracking, and making adjustments as necessary. If you want to read the blog, we have it on our website. I'll put it in the link below. And then I also send out a weekly newsletter where I basically give you all of this in newsletter format. So if you would rather read it than watch it, please feel free to hit that below. It is just once a week a newsletter delivered to your inbox. We don't do anything outside of that, so we won't spam you. But we try to deliver one very high value newsletter per week. So I would love for you to check that out. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more in the future. Bye.